What is up? Welcome to Etsy Jam. In this episode, we talk with Dalia from the Handmade Mastermind, formerly known as Etsy Seller Mastermind. She covers a ton of great topics, like how she handles planning, how she feels about Amazon Handmade, important lessons she's learned from her previous life in retail, how she uses social media and Periscope, and more. What is up, guys? Welcome to Etsy Jam. I am Gordon from Marmalead.
And I am Richie from Marmalead. And if you don't know what Marmalead is, it is what makes this whole Etsy Jam possible. Marmalead is the best Etsy SEO and market research tool for serious sellers. So if you are serious about your shop, go over to marmalead.com, marmalead.com. That was the worst one yet, but that's all right. Head over there, get yourself some Marmalead, and get serious about your shop.
And this week, we have a very special guest with us. We have Dalia here from the Handmade Mastermind, formerly known as Etsy Seller Mastermind, in case you're familiar with her through that channel too. And before we start barraging her with all kinds of important questions about her favorite ice cream and stuff like that, would you like to give us a little bit of background on yourself, Dalia?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Dalia here. So I'm also actually a seller on Etsy. And a little background. I'm originally from New York and moved to Houston about 10 years ago, actually. Started my Etsy shop because I actually saw people selling things on Etsy. And I was like, wait a minute, I could do the exact same thing slightly, right? So I started, and over time, I felt like, you know what, I know I could teach people to do this. And I really wanted to help people build a really good business, such as what I did, especially after going full time with it. Have 2 kids, again, live in Houston, and I do this full time. So
Dalia, you mentioned that you do this full time. Maybe that should be the first question. How long have you been doing this full time?
It's a great question. A little over 2 years. I think I resigned from my other full-time job. I believe it was right before inventory. I used to work as retail manager. And I think it was around April. So it was a little over 2 years ago.
Nice. So how long were you doing this part-time before you went full-time? What did that transition look like for you?
So I opened my Etsy shop around January 2011. So a few years, right? Because then I left the retail job around April 2014. So quite a few years I was doing it part-time. But when I first started, I wasn't really serious about it, which I know many people are not. They do it for fun. I think I got serious about it after 2 years in. I had my second kid, and I had her during Christmas season. And then I started to notice it started to pick up on its own. I wasn't doing anything to it, literally nothing. It's pick up on its own. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to put some more effort into it because I want to make some extra cash. I actually wanted to make enough to pay for her daycare each month. And I was like, that's a decent goal.
Yeah.
So I started to officially do it part-time right after she was born. So I'm going to say January 2013.
Nice. I like what you said right there too. Like your goal initially was, I'm just going to make enough to cover the daycare.
Yeah.
So I think that these smaller goals, not that that's small because daycare is expensive, but it's nice when you chunk them out that when you set these goals, so you have something that actually looks like you're making a dent in it. Because I know that everyone's not interested in doing it full time. Some are just doing it for fun. But when you are trying to make a full time of it,
yeah.
I think it can be really tough mentally
yeah.
when you see like, okay, I have to start here at basically 0 and I have to get all the way up to here and cover 100% of everything. Well, that's kind of tough. Let's just say, hey, can I buy some groceries? Can I cover daycare?
Yeah.
And kind of make your way up the ladder.
I agree. I do like the fact that I put not just a dollar goal on it, but what I'm going to do with that money. And I think it helps motivate people. Like I said, I was just doing it for fun. Whether or not I actually made that money to help with daycare, whatever. I said, that'd be kind of cool. Act like nothing happened, like she was born and nothing has changed financially. So again, that was my original goal. And I'm obviously way past that now, but love putting something to that goal just besides the dollar amount.
That's very good. So also, let's say, what is your favorite thing about doing this full time?
That I don't have to work for somebody, simply. I think people might have different reasons, but I think I did really well in the outside world. My bosses loved me. I was getting promoted. I was doing well, but the issue the issue stands that I have ADD, and it could be difficult for me to finish projects. And when I have many things going on in retail management, it was very frustrating, and very frustrating for my boss to see that I wasn't completing things. And even though I was still, a star student in her eyes, it was still frustrating for me. So having to do things on my own terms, is one of the reasons why I love working for myself. And then eventually when you get used to it and you're like, oh my God, this is my money in my pocket, you're like, all right, I got to shape up. I got to figure out how I focus more. And I've come a long way.
Interesting. So doing this yourself, instead of kind of leaning more into the ADD or embracing that, you've actually worked on focusing more and completing the projects you start here? Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It took a while because, again, I'm ADD. It's very difficult. I know a lot of creatives out there can relate to that. So I had to figure out systems, figure out plans. And not always am I on the straight path to it, but most of the time, because I've been doing it for a while, it's really, really helped tremendously.
What sort of systems or methods did you find worked well for you?
The biggest thing I talk about, especially with my group, my members, is planning. So I tend to plan out, and this is intense. So when people first begin, I tell them to do it a little bit less, but I plan out my whole year as far as goals. And I talk about big goals I want to accomplish, and then I break them down into smaller tasks. Because what I find is that when I'm ADD, right, I have this huge project that's so hard to attack, and I get, frustrated. I don't know where to start, you name it. And then by breaking it down to smaller tasks, I can then just refocus and go back to this list. And if I'm not in the mood to do one of those things, I move on to the next thing, depending on the project that I'm working on. So planning has been one of the biggest things I've done to help me with that. Yeah. And a few other things that help me stay on focus, motivational things like that.
I like that. I like that concept of, because there's always times when we have a giant to-do list in front of us, and if we're not in the mood to do something, that happens, right? Like if I have to sit down and code something, but I really don't feel like coding right now, it really helps to have that plan out in front of me, and it's like, oh, I can just pick up this other thing that seems like a whole lot more fun. Like work on this graphic design or something like that just switches gears, and I'm still making progress toward those goals that I've laid out as part of my plan, but I'm not like totally hung up or stuck because I don't feel like doing this one thing at this moment. I like that. That's good.
Exactly. And, I always tell people sometimes you completely feel like a big flop. Like you don't want to do anything, no matter what is on that list. What I then do is go to like my no-brainer list. There's some things you have to always get accomplished, right? That could always be pushed back. It's not really important, right? Mm-hmm. But I eventually get done, like restocking envelopes or all that mishigosh stuff. If I really don't feel like doing work, I still find myself being productive by doing something that I can never find time to do because it's not as important. So
cool. Very cool. Yeah.
I know what you mean. I collect things on my list like that too. Things that are just kind of like take numbers from here, put them over here type stuff. Just kind of take my time. But, sometimes those are exactly what I need because, the kids will keep you up all night or something like that. And you feel completely fried. The last thing you want to do is something that's really going to take the brain power because you just don't have it at that point. And that's when those things are really safe.
Really good.
They keep me productive because it's probably the most productive thing I could do at that time.
Exactly.
I like that too. And for the most part, like Gordon was saying, I kind of embrace the ADD. Like I'll have my list of things. I'll have different projects. I know I get really bored when I have just one thing in front of me because every day I don't feel like waking up and doing that one thing.
Yeah.
Right. I like some days I just wake up. I'm like, hey, I just want to do this other thing. And, that's what's been really nice is being able to just kind of, not having to report to somebody on, what project I'm working on. Because I think that gets a little bit chaotic. Like, wait a minute, where'd this project come from? Oh, yeah. Well, I decided to work on this, like start this project.
I know. We're in the same boat, I promise.
I'm sure there's a lot like us out there on Etsy. And not on Etsy yet. So when you eventually listen to this, welcome. Oh, it's a recording.
I'll be out there forever.
That it will.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Oh yeah, no pressure, by the way.
I will now refine myself. Continue.
Uh, so, what is the number one problem? Maybe top three problems you have in your business right now? Either business, actually.
Problem. Hmm.
Challenge. Let's say, maybe redirect them from problem and more of challenges, because that can have a very positive aspect to it as well.
Yeah. And anyone with businesses. So I find one of my biggest problems is time. I wish I had more of it. And it's not because I don't get a lot done. I do, but because my goal list is so awesome. It is. The stuff I know I'm going to accomplish on it is going to really get me far. I want to do it all tomorrow. I do. I want to finish it all tomorrow. However, because time does not allow it, I find myself upset and frustrated. I know it's crazy because I can't get more than 24 hours. Find myself upset and frustrated that I can't get things accomplished faster. But some things do need time, regardless of what it is. I mean, I could name a million things. SEO, I mean, retaking photos, anything takes time. And if you understand the importance of it, it will take a lot of time. So that's one of the challenges I have is time. I do get a lot done in the time that I have, but it could be frustrating for me. Another thing is I'm gonna lower my voice just a bit because I think he's still out there. My husband works for me. He's worked for me for about since April of this year, and I have to train him. And he is not design inclined, right? That's part of my Etsy shop, right? Stationery, and there's a lot of things that he does that he has to have an eye for, and I'm training him. And it could be frustrating for one, training someone that doesn't have an eye for these things, right? But also because I'm working with my husband. Mm-hmm. I think it's easier than working with a friend. I never want to hire a friend ever. It's my personal opinion. But how do you, not reprimand him, but how do you, I find it challenging to point out the things that he has not done so well, and tell him how to do it well. He get defensive, and he's not like that in regular life. He just takes it defensively when me, his wife, right, gives him feedback. So I find that to be a big challenge. We've come a long way. When I first hired him, guys, I want to fire him. And FYI, he's not going to ever listen to this podcast. I know he's not. Like he's busy in life. He's not going to. So I know I'm safe with that. But it gave me a lot of anxiety, and I mean, you name it. He wanted to watch soccer while he was working. I was like, you can't. How are you going to focus on what you're doing? We've come a long way. He started to understand, I'm the boss. I have to make decisions that are not easy. And one of them is like, hey, you can't watch soccer and, whatever. So that training my husband, training an employee in general, while you have so much things going on is a big challenge. It's another big challenge. As another one, I handle my e-commerce business as well as the coaching, both of them together. And some days more than others, one takes a lot more time than the other. And a big challenge for me, and I'm not sure how to even remedy this, is how do I give enough time to both so they both can grow on a good path? So meaning right now I'm heavily focusing on certain big projects for the Handmade Mastermind. And that's great. But then my Etsy shop and my Amazon shop take a little back seat. My husband kind of runs it on autopilot. It does fine, right? But there's no staggering growth that's happening. I'm not doing anything major. And that's what's challenging. I'm only one person, and I have the mastermind plan. Like I know what I have to do to grow it. And my husband doesn't. So I have to be the one to give direction, et cetera. If I'm working on big projects, it's very hard. It's very hard to do both. And that's why I don't think a lot of people actually out there do both. They don't sell and they don't also teach at the same time. It's very difficult.
Yeah, I can see that being very difficult from a time management perspective, just when you have a lot going on. Kind of like Elon Musk running a couple different companies, right? Like, how do you do that? I read an article a while ago. I don't remember who it was or who they were even talking about. But people like Elon Musk, where they run multiple companies, because a handful of other people also do that. And we're talking like big companies that like have demands of like 60 plus hours a week each. So how do they do that and keep them all straight? One of the strategies the article talks about is they batch their days. So it's not like, okay, this day I work for this company, this day I work for that company, but they'll batch them for things like Monday is my operations day. Yeah. Tuesday is my sales and growth day. And then they kind of go back and forth. So they have a day for each one. So they have all these things from the different businesses coming at them. And if it pertains to what they're focusing on, the type of thing they're focusing on, if it's like the accounting, finance, operations, or sales and growth, they know like, okay, this is coming at me, but it's not that day. So it goes over here to this list. It's getting deferred. It can wait, and they stay in that same zone, even though they're working with different businesses. I thought that was really interesting. And I'm not sure I'm compartmentalized enough to actually, handle that.
I think batching days can be very difficult for me. So every Monday I do this, every Tuesday I do this. I know I could have some success with it, but I prefer to batch time, chunks in a day. That works better for me because again, I'm creative, I'm ADD. I'm like, if you want to make me stick to this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday schedule, it might work for a while because I'm more disciplined than I am when I first started. I mean, running this type of business, I have to be very disciplined as much as you can be. But I think after a while, you might see me just go crazy and like throw all the papers in the air and just like enough. I can't always do that. I will get literally like unmotivated, depressed, like I'll hide in the corner. Like it could be really frustrating,
I know what you mean. Some days you just wake up and you're like, how is today not Sunday? And then there's other days I wake up and it's Sunday and all I want to do is work on a project.
Oh my God, you're right.
My brain doesn't distinguish. Like, actually, a lot of times I don't know what day it is, but
yeah, me too.
It doesn't like have a turn off or like, oh no, it's a Saturday or Sunday. Totally cool. Like today's your chill day or something. It's like, no, today, you got enough sleep and now you feel like going out and doing something, like you want to work on a project. And then I try to embrace those feelings. So, if I feel particularly motivated, like put it to use. And when I don't, sometimes I try not to use that like last bit in the tank and like force myself to do something I don't want to do because I get lower. I start getting into what you just described, where it's like, I just want to go hide in a corner, throw all the papers in the air.
You know what's funny about that weekend thing? I know like sometimes when the Friday comes, I'm like, yeah, awesome. I can't wait. And there's other times where I'm like, no, I really want to heavily work on this project. I wish I could work on it on the weekend and ignore my kids. Like I wish, but I can't. And sometimes I always hear talk about this, that if you finish a Sunday and you are dreading Monday, that's a problem. And, and I understand that. I don't know what you guys think. I want to hear what you guys think. I understand that. But, running your own business is like, a roller coaster, right? So while I have some Mondays I look very much forward to, depending on what I'm working on, some Mondays I don't. And I will tell you firsthand that I love what I do. I don't find it necessarily true. What do you guys think?
So for me, Sundays, back when I had a day job, Sundays used to be like my least favorite day of the week until they started having these monster meetings on Tuesdays, which then made Tuesdays my least favorite day of the week. But now, actually, since we've been able to do Marmalead full time, it's really switched. And I come the end of the day Sunday, I'm really excited to get going again Monday morning and push through the week. It's kind of funny because it's like it really changed the way I feel. All day Sunday used to be just like, oh man, like the weekend's over. It's like, you wake up Sunday morning and you're like, man, there's only a day left. Like I've already had my Friday night and my Saturday, and then the whole day it's like, there's even less time. Like now there's just an afternoon left. Oh, now there's just an evening.
You understand me. So hold on, are you telling me, Gordon, that now that you work, for yourself, you don't have those feelings anymore? You don't walk into a Sunday? Really?
No.
So am I the only one?
Nice.
Am I the only one, Richie, that still has those days?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. Because I don't have anything. I'm sorry. In a way, yeah. Like I'm trying to think of a time that I really feel like I'm dreading the next day, but now I don't. Every time I worked for someone else and had a day job, it was always like that. I felt like if I didn't maximize Friday after work, and then if I didn't maximize Saturday and Sunday, by the time Sunday night came around, actually sometimes it was even Sunday morning, I'd be like, are you kidding me? I don't have another night.
I know. Well, first of all, I don't dread. Don't put words in my mouth. I did not say I dread. However, like I said, there's some weeks when I'm like, man, I wish I just had an extra day. But definitely not feelings of dread. That's intense, I think. But definitely wish I had another day. Everything you guys are describing perfectly. Like wish I had another day, like all this stuff, especially when I had the other job. I used to work retail management, so I never had Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, weekends off, nights off. Now I do. I have nights and weekends off. So very different for me, as I never understood weekends, what they really were because of my other job. Very different, I'm telling you, especially holiday seasons. Never understood it. So definitely.
Okay. See, that might be well, at least for me, Gordon, I'm not sure how you treat it, but I don't have a distinction between like days of the week or like hours of the day and stuff like that. So you're treating yourself to the weekends and like the nights and stuff like that, which is great, especially since you didn't do that before when you were working retail. I know what you mean. It's like, hey, holiday's coming up. What does that mean? It means you're working. It means you're missing whatever friends and family event everyone else is going to. That's pretty much, how that works. My mom and sister both do nursing, and it's kind of the same way.
Oh, yeah, of course. My brother, he's in retail. He's in New York, and my family's coming down here for Thanksgiving. Very exciting, but he can't come. I was like, get out of here. Come on, just come on down. He's like, I can't, I work in a union there, and I'm not allowed to take this time off during holiday. I'm like, oh yeah, I used to manage people like that. We don't let them off in the holiday. And his boss told him the only way you can take off is if you quit and then reapply. And I was like, uh-oh. And it's upsetting. Now I understand. No, I understand on the family side. It's upsetting because I'm like, I really want my little brother to be here. And I understand the management side. They can't. There's no way. Yeah. So
things have changed for me in that it is a little bit more blurry now. Like when I'm working on work stuff and not working on work stuff. Back when I had a full-time job, I would have my nights and my weekends, but oftentimes like nights and weekends would be taken up by doing like Marmalead and other random projects like that, but I'd also have some fun in there too and do things that were just like family things or watching Netflix or whatever. But now there isn't another side project, right? So I end up spending my night and sometimes my weekend time working on Marmalead stuff whenever I have time for that. But I think generally I try to carve out, like still keep my weekdays as like that's my work time, and then weekends during the day at least try to give my family time then, just so that I can kind of like keep people on a schedule and people know what to expect for what time is going to be available when and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have similarities there. Monday through Fridays, what I try to carve out as, like these are days you can expect me to be working. Yeah. And then once in a while you have those days where it's just like, oh my gosh, I am so tired. I need to chill out a little bit.
That's today for me. That's today. I'm like, woke up very tired. I'm like, oh, all right, let's do this.
And then I'll try to do something like recharge a little bit. And then so sometimes I'll do something like family oriented in the morning of a weekday. And then my work day then just like starts at noon, then like goes later past dinner. Yeah. Right. Or like, even then, and then like kind of put the kids to bed, get back to it. Or sometimes it'll be a Saturday. They'll be like, well, we hung out on Friday, so it might be Saturday, but it is also time to do this project. So I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. A lot of flexibility. And what I like about it is just kind of, I find it a lot easier and have more energy when I can not fight for motivation, right? Like not fight and don't have the anxiety about it, because I know that Monday is only a Monday if I make it a Monday. Now.
I like that. I like that saying. I like it. No, seriously, I do.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, it's now it's really what you make it. But in all of my past jobs, Monday was always what someone else made the Monday to be, right? Someone else scheduled the meetings and you had to go to them, right? But now, no, any meetings I have, anything I have, it's because I did it. You did it, and I can change it.
Absolutely.
So, which is nice. Anyways, also, as far as time, that was your number one that you said as far as challenges, right? Having enough time. So with all the different priorities and all the things you want to get done yesterday, how do you decide what to do right now?
Oh, what a loaded question. I'll tell you something. I had another person working for me recently. She gave her 2 weeks. She had to move. And the moment she told me she's giving her 2 weeks, I'm like, oh my God, like I have to like work her to the bone because that's the last time I get of her. And I said to myself, what does that look like? What will she be working on? And immediately I knew what it was. And it's irrelevant what it was. But the point is I put myself in a position that helps me understand what the most important task is. And usually what that is something that, of course, it's always going to bring in some sort of revenue, right? Something you always do, goal you work toward bringing some in revenue. But when I put that pressure on myself, I didn't put it on myself. Somebody did it for me. She told me she was leaving. It helped me realize what the most important task is at that moment. And to be honest with you, going forward, I might even think of it like that. However, like I said, I'm a big planner. So this question is interesting because it's not that difficult for me. I know what has to be done, when it has to be done. Again, once in a while when I feel a little unmotivated or a little crazy, I might change it up. But everything I know when it's going to be released, like if I have a new collection, I know what month of the year. It's a little intense what I do, and it took me a while to plan it like this. But sometimes my focus has to shift. So for example, last year, was it? Yeah, last year I was Amazon Handmade. They launched their new handmade section. So I had to stop what I was working on and get that launched. I want to get on there, So it's really the things that will make me revenue. And again, I have it planned out in advance. So, because like I said, I wish I could do everything tomorrow because a lot of things are really important to me. But it's mostly things that will bring in a lot of revenue. And sometimes it could be things that are timely. So if I'm selling product, things for the holiday season have to be already have done, because now it's at the time. Or things for Mother's Day have to be done a certain time, etc. So depending on the time frame, as well as how important the task is to make me money.
So you mentioned Amazon Handmade in there too, and actually this is something we haven't really talked about a lot on this podcast. I think we've mentioned it here and there, but what's your quick feedback on Amazon Handmade and how that's going for you?
I love it. Big heart on the screen. I love it. Well, I love it because it's obviously making me money. My feedback on it is, it's doing fantastic for me. And I tell people that I run into, especially my members, if they are able to sell on there, meaning they got approved because there's a approval process. Mm-hmm. If you're able to sell on there, why not? I was able to, nearly, I think actually, no, not nearly, more than double my income, my revenue, because of Amazon. And I don't think my husband would be here with me without it,
Nice.
Because it's obviously increased, So I think to myself, what people are missing because they're so scared of a few things. And many people out there listening to this might know what those are. Their rules and regulations, their leniency. But I'll tell you something, Amazon is, they're allowed to do that. They've built this huge marketplace, like the number one online marketplace. And they want to treat their customers fantastic. And when most people buy from there, they don't really remember my shop name, unfortunately. They remember Amazon. Mm-hmm. And if they have a bad experience with me, I don't think they're going to stop shopping on Amazon, period. But over time, if Amazon does not back up that buyer, mm-hmm. they're going to be really turned off. And there's obviously many places they can buy things, mm-hmm. Online. There's some really reliable places as well, because a lot of people have good return policies. So people sometimes get upset that they have to play with Amazon rules. I'll mm-hmm. tell you something. They have built a huge marketplace, and the reason why they could charge the percentage that they do, transaction fees and all these rules and regulations, because they have so much traffic coming to their website, and you're paying for that. Mm-hmm. You want to sell to their customer. It's what it is. I'm sorry. It's their customer. Then you have to play by those rules. You have to, in the event that a return comes, in my opinion, who cares? I mean, if it happens often, then it's not your platform. Right? Depending on the type of product you have, the market. But yeah. If you find that, you have to give it a try at least. I mean, I tell people, at least give it a try. What will you lose? You might lose, I'm just going to throw it out there, $10, $20, $30, $40, depending on the item. And you know what? At least you lost that, but at least it wasn't the platform that's right for you. And I actually, be honest with you, I haven't met somebody officially that feels that way, that hasn't been the platform for them, unless they haven't, been able to sell on there. They're just frustrated that they can't sell on there. Mm-hmm. But with the amount of money it's made me, I passionately tell people, at least give it a try. It's, I told you, I hired my husband because of it, and people that sell on Etsy, I think it's great. Sell on their .com, it's great. But the reason why I would say I'm successful is because I have multiple revenue streams, and obviously Amazon is one of them.
Do you find that the sales you're getting on Amazon, those are cross shoppers? Those are people who are going to be on both platforms, or do you feel like you're hitting a whole different audience when you use these different platforms?
Great question. I think it's a whole different audience. And I'll tell you how I know it's a different audience. And this might be weird, but it's what I do. I know my customers. So, of course, when somebody buys on Amazon, I can see the buyer's name. I'll be honest with you, because I'm in personalized stationery, I'm very in tune with people's names because they get things personalized. I know if you're getting something personalized for your kid, you tell me it's for my little daughter. I know their name. So I understand how names trend for the time frame that they were born. And a lot of the names that purchase from me are older customers, you know? So people that have bought personalized stationery from me on Amazon are a different market than Etsy. For me at least, right? They're a different market completely. I get a lot more men. Like, it's insane the amount of men I get. And they're they're very easygoing. They're buy and keep moving. And I honestly thought I would have some price resistance on there. And I don't, not one bit. I've been doing very well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you get more price resistance on Etsy than Amazon then? Is that?
When you say price resistance, do you mean, well, when I said price resistance originally, I automatically thought in my mind that because my items were mixed in the search results with other people's items that were much lower price and appeared to look decent quality. So I was like, oh, there's no way they're going to buy mine. But first of all, my items are, I think, much prettier, right? Style is very different. So that's a, thing. And my photos are really nicely branded. I think that's a trust factor. They're like, you know what? I really trust her. I'm going to buy from her. But I was comparing it to who's already there. However, on Etsy, I don't think there's price resistance for me particularly, but a lot of people in Etsy, give or take, have the same price range. On Amazon, there's a lot of people much, much lower than me. And I was worried. I was going to go on there and flop, but I had to give it a try. And it was doing great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you find that Amazon, so what are some of the big differences as far as, I don't know, like speed of transaction, stuff like that? What's the difference audience-wise, the type of person who you're going to reach when you put your product to Amazon versus Etsy? Are you seeing big differences there?
The differences I see across platforms, and again, I also coach people, so I know a little bit more besides my market, is people that shop for wedding, people that shop for baby special items, of course, they're going to go straight to Etsy. And people in those markets might find that they might do better on Etsy than Amazon. However, there's still a market on Amazon. But if you sell something that is better for the older customer, the more professional or older, whatever, you might find that Amazon might be better for you. I rarely get the older customer on Etsy. Usually it's 25 to 40 for me on Etsy. So that's one thing. Another difference between the two platforms, besides the age range of the customers, is, let's see. It's hard to say. What were the other things you pointed out specifically, Richie?
It's kind of like speed of transaction, stuff like that, like how fast the marketplace is actually moving. Difference in the customers, demographics, which you hit on.
Yeah.
Just that kind of thing. I was just wondering if there are any real black and white type differences between the two. So, you said younger.
I'll tell you this, that Amazon, they say it in a different way, but they don't like you, holding on to their customers. So it's not your customer, it's Amazon's customer. They made that very, very clear. And that's upsetting, right? And what's funny is that I've had a lot of repeat business on Amazon, and that's fantastic. So they come back on Amazon and they locate me again, they buy from me again. So that's great, but they don't want you to capture them, let's say on email lists, or I think you're allowed to do social media and things like that. Say, hey, visit me on this and that platform. But you can't show them your .com. You can't show them your email list. It could be iffy, And if you don't play by Amazon rules, they're very, very mean from what I heard. So that's one thing. Etsy does appreciate, there's some, of course, rules, but they appreciate you trying to build a relationship with your customer. On Amazon, you actually don't know their email address. The email address that they have is some coded email address for Amazon. And when you email them, it will then like redirect to their real. It's just so weird. And on the email system, when customers try to actually email me something or message me and they say, email me here, it's actually blocked out. Amazon blocks it out. So they're very particular on contacting the customer outside the platform, which, if I was Amazon, I understand, but it's hard for me to grow brand loyalty on Amazon. A little different. I just think when I had my first holiday season with Amazon, which is handmade, when it first rolled out, because it rolled out in October last year. And then, a couple months later, Christmas time came. And I actually beat my Etsy numbers, which is quite intense to beat. Yeah, it probably beat it. I actually did bookkeeping recently and looked at my last year numbers. I think it beat it by not much, like by 1,000. And that's not really much for me, but it was impressive. It was my first time around there. And I actually have a lot more items on there right now. So I think the number of transactions, well, in general, is higher on Amazon. Again, depending on the market you have, you might not find as much success on there, but definitely number of people ready to buy on Amazon. People that go to Amazon, they're ready to buy or at least look at reviews before they make that informed decision to buy. So it's another difference I see.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of times I feel like when people are just kind of looking at the different platforms, they almost think they're interchangeable. Like I'll just go from Etsy to Amazon or Amazon to Etsy, and it's like they just have the same audience but on two different platforms. So I'm glad you really clarified in your experience on what those differences are, and that you're actually reaching different people depending on the platform. There's the buyers have they're completely different buyers with completely different tastes and purposes.
Absolutely.
And also, I think it's really important that you noted that, both platforms, they both, whoever shops on their platform, they want to be clear, like it is their customer. It's Etsy's customer. It's Amazon's customer. Amazon sounds like they go through a lot more trouble, right? To keep it that way. What they do with the whole hiding of the email address sounds a lot like what Craigslist does, right? You can do that. You can choose like to show your information on there, and you can choose like send me an email, but there's the default one is to hide your email. And so it's just to like a random for that listing only email address that then routes back to yours, and you reply it again, it routes back through, and your email addresses are hidden.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So that's interesting. That's good stuff to note. Now you mentioned that you know your customers really well. And
I do. I feel like a quiz is coming on. I was like, oh no.
What is their favorite color?
Of course I can always learn more about them, but I definitely do.
How do you go about learning about them? That's something that a lot of the different sellers we talk to, they can be pretty reluctant and shy about actually talking to their customers and getting to know them. So what do? What is your process for this?
So when you first start out, it can be very difficult, right? So you have to have some time under your belt with selling, but there's a few things you should realize. Like I mentioned to you on Amazon, the reason why I know older customers are on there, literally by their names. I mean, again, for me, in the name kind of business, personalization, I know this. So you have to pay attention. So for example, let's talk about Etsy for a second. And I'm going to talk about introverts and extroverts, because some people can actually go out there and talk to their customer, which I really recommend people do. So people that are, type A personalities and like to talk to people, I recommend when you're doing your craft shows, marketplaces, don't be scared to talk to them. You need to know what they like, why they're shopping, why are they buying your item? What are they using it for? Who they're giving it to? Why they're giving it to them? And if this sounds all fuzzy to you, bear with me, because it starts to get more clear after a while. Because if you start to know who they're giving it to, let's say if they're buying for their kids, you know that the styles you're creating has to be kid friendly. And this is just a general example. Or if they are buying for their husbands, and some of their demographics, the age range or whatever, you should know that the husbands, particularly, maybe they like playing golf, or I don't know what husbands like nowadays anyway, sports or whatever. So you have to think about who they're giving it to, what's the reason, etc. So if you're out there, I encourage talking to your customers. One way to do it, I use this even back in retail, is approaching customers can sometimes be awkward and difficult. And I tell people, say, hey, hello, how's it going? casual, wait a few seconds, they tell you hi back or whatever, and then engage in a conversation and connect with them in some way. It could be a personal connection, such as, I know this sounds tacky, but for girls at least, we say, oh my God, I love your bag. Where'd you get it from? Right? It has to be genuine. You can't tell somebody that has an obviously ugly bag or has no bag or something stupid, right? I mean, in my opinion, you have to connect with them because then you might talk about it. Or shoes or the weather outside. Like, I've been stuck in here all day. How's the weather out there? Whatever it is to get them to trust you and open up, right? In any way. Some people do it with their kids, like, oh, how old is she? And they chat. After that, you might want to begin the conversation about, oh, who are you shopping for? Especially if you're selling in a marketplace, right? So, because they're obviously probably shopping during holiday season, maybe. So who are you shopping for? They might start giving you a list of names, or I'm shopping for my sister and my brother, you know? And then it starts to begin. You ask questions. What do they like, you know? And you're not going to sit there and write everything down. Hopefully you can mentally take some note. And even after the customer leaves, you might want to jot a few things down. Now, this is not going to help you after one or two times, but many times, right? After maybe a whole show or something, you've talked to enough customers to kind of get a little better gauge on them. Who they're shopping for, why, the styles that they like, you know, et cetera. And of course, this process also works to help you close a sale because you understand more about them. You could recommend some items. You could, you know, reinforce the great purchase that they made and move on. So being an extrovert helps because you get to talk to them specifically. But I talk to also people that are introverts. They don't want to talk to people in person. And I'm fine with that. So I gave some of my members recommendations. For example, I have a target market webinar that teaches people this. And I'll tell you that for introverts, there's a few different things you could do. One of them is if you're on Etsy, and this is a little work, but it does come in handy, is that let's say Richie buys from me, right? I see Richie bought from me. I fill his order. Here you go, Richie. It's sent off to you. What I might do is spy on Richie a little bit, right? I'll check into his profile and see what he favorited. I can't see what he purchased, and I understand that. I can see what he favorited. And I'll just you could jot some notes down, but take some mental note. But of course, if you've sold on Etsy here and there, you could do it for the last 20 customers. And if you do it in one time frame, like don't do a customer a day, sit down and do 20 customers and see what they have in common. And I found that my customers, of course, because I know what I sell, they have kids and they shop for their kids a lot, and they have young kids. I also know this also helps people understand what the target customer likes. I know the styles and patterns that they like because I know that they're favoriting it, right? And you can easily see it. If you do this exercise, you can easily see it. So that's one way introverts could find out more about their customer. Another way is, so when you purchase from me, Richie or Gordon, right, I will thank you for your purchase. But I also might have you sign up for my email list if you want to, especially after the purchase or whatever. And people that have built email lists, you could easily just reach out to them and don't be scared, you know, depending how you word it, just reach out to them and say, hey, Sally or whatever. And you say something like, you know, I really want to, and of course I'm paraphrasing because I'm on the spot right now, but I really want to, you know, help, let's say, improve my customer's experience and improve the products that I offer. You know, would you mind taking this short survey? Don't send them anywhere. Just keep it inside that email. Don't ask more than 3 or 4 questions. Keep them simple. And that is it. And tell them if they respond, they will get a percentage off, a coupon code. And that second they respond to you in a reply, that you will literally send them back a code. And again, make them simple, you know, questions, respond. And you can literally ask them things such as, where do you normally shop for your jewelry if you sell jewelry? What products do you want that I do not carry? You know what I'm trying to say? So there's specific things you could really understand about them. You know, don't ask super personal questions. You'll get nobody to respond. But one thing I make sure I'm very clear on when I tell people when they do that, you know, you're not going to entice anybody with 10% off. I mean, you might, but let's just, if you really want these answers and you really value understanding your target market, I know this is crazy, but give them 30% off. Give them 35. Something that really will make them hit reply and say, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. When I did that, I did it a couple of times. I found that a lot of people did respond, which is great. And I find that actually, even after they responded, I think about 45% of them use the coupon code. So you're not giving away the bank when you're finding out this stuff. And these are my customers. They opted in to hear from me. So, you know, the fact that they got a percentage coupon code really excited them. But some of them just have busy lives and they end up forgetting to use it. Because it's also, I put a time limit on it as well. I say 2 weeks from that time, and that's it.
That's nice. So one of the objections that we've heard from sellers, mainly the introverts who really just don't want to do this, right? But even with something like, I'm going to send them a conversation, ask them some questions. People, I think when they're not in the position, like the business owner, the seller position, they look at things from a consumer perspective, and their first thing is, oh, I'd be so irritated if somebody sent me a message with questions, and they don't even forget the coupon part. They're just like, oh, I'd be so irritated. Has that happened to you? Because it sounds like you've done this a few times. Does anyone ever come back and said, oh, I'm so irritated. Why would you send me this question?
Well, I'll tell you, so no, nobody has. If they didn't want to answer it, they just move on. And I guess that's it. Now, could I have irritated some people? Potentially. But I will tell you this, if a seller themselves come to me and go, Dalia, I want to try this, but as a customer, I wouldn't want to be bothered. What do I literally don't want to be bothered by these questions. What do I do? How do I break out and still do this? I will first tell the person that I don't want you to randomly message random people that have purchased from you because you didn't connect with them. But I will tell you that if I connected with Lauren, my customer, who I've sent a proof or two to her, and she joined my email list, I already connect with her in some way. So it's not like you bought from me, Richie. You never heard from me. I fulfilled your order and it went. You might not even answer that email, and you might not even care to answer. But I recommend this exercise if you connect with the person. It's like, going to a friend and asking them for something, a favor. They'll probably do for you. Asking a stranger for a favor, they'll look at you like you're crazy. Similar to that. So for people that are reluctant, it's probably because they feel uncomfortable going up to strangers. Understand that. I would tell sellers, understand that, and then make it a point to connect with them in some way, even if it's thanking Richie for his purchase after he purchased, and then after it's sent, sending him an email with the tracking number saying your order has been shipped. If he then decides to, communicate back with you, maybe you've made a connection, maybe not. But I have a business that I make connections because I send proofs. Of course, I have my email list, so it's, of course, a lot different. People email me back for invoices and things like that. So people that are reluctant to, I tell them, yeah, sure, don't email just strangers that you never even spoke to besides a sale. If you connect with them, go ahead and do that. But I would also say that in general, if you're here to run a business, right? This is not, let me start crafting some projects and selling it to my friend. We're running a business. We have to know, who our target market is. We have to be able to challenge ourselves, feel a little uncomfortable, a lot uncomfortable sometimes, and do these things we don't want to do. I'll tell you guys, I have done things in my business that have given me anxiety attacks. You get it, right? And
of course.
I'm stronger for it. I challenge people to do this. So kind of get over yourself. Get over the fact that you're a little scared. What's the worst that could happen? You might get somebody, if you did it the wrong way, that says, I'm not answering you. Stop emailing me back. You're learning from these experiences. If in the end you learn something, that's still great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think a lot of the inhibitions that people harbor from the school days where, the teacher's like, get up in front of the class and do a report. And, most people are terrified of public speaking. And the fears that come out are like, everyone's going to laugh at me and this and that. And we make up these big fears. So I'm going to message a customer and ask them a question, and they're going to yell at me somehow, right? They're going to say mean things to me, or they're going to find my phone number and call me and tell me to never ask them another question.
In school, that's fine. You're still growing up or whatever, but we're in business now. You're taking people's money. A lot of things I could say. I need you to get over it, and not tomorrow, but do gradual change, whatever those are. If you're scared to talk to people and maybe it's in the cards for you, then go ahead and talk to people. Whatever it is, start making changes, because when you start to feel uncomfortable, it's probably a good thing. I'm telling you guys, stuff I went through. God, I even told you, hiring my husband, when I first hired my first assistant, it was intense. I can name a number of things I've done that if I didn't push myself, if my husband didn't push me to do, I wouldn't be here right now.
That's good. Yeah, I think that all the growth comes from out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You worked in retail before, so you're used to the customer conversation stuff. But for those who aren't, I mean, how much different information do you ask as someone working in retail? Because I know that if I go to buy a shirt at a retail store, I mean, they're asking for my phone number, my zip
Oh
code,
yeah,
my
yeah.
email address. Can I sign up for 3 different credit cards? I mean, yet I still go back. So, I mean, that's kind of the extreme end. They're asking for everything, yet I still go back. So I
Right. I mean,
think we have a
those.
higher tolerance than people, give credit for.
I agree. I mean, some of those places, obviously, they've earned their keep, they've earned their customers' trust. If you go to a really huge retail store, if you need some things, you're definitely going to go back. Sometimes you may not, depending on if it's a really bad experience, but people have to cut themselves some slack. They have to give it a try, guys. They have to.
Absolutely. If you don't try, you'll never know. And if you don't try, someone else will.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So on this retail thread, so since you worked in retail before, what types of things you probably have a much better understanding than someone who hasn't worked in retail about kind of the inner workings of a shop and the psychology of buyers and kind of like what brings people and also the seasonality of things.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm sure that's all been, kind of forced on you during all your years in retail. Like, hey, it kind of like right now, you go out and it's like, hey, Christmas stuff is already out,
Right.
and it's not even Halloween yet. So to most consumers, that's how they're thinking. But from the other side of that, you realize how early you have to prepare so you're ready. What types of lessons did you learn in retail that help you on both Etsy and Amazon Handmade that some of your counterparts that have not had that retail experience just don't know?
Okay, sorry, my battery's dying, guys.
That's all right.
Oh no.
I had to plug it in. I was like, oh no, I don't want this thing to end. Anyway, so there's some of the things I've learned that help me sell online. The biggest thing, because I've worked for, and I'll tell you the names, I've worked for Bloomingdale's in New York, very huge in customer service. I worked for Neiman Marcus, again, very huge in customer service. And I worked for Macy's when I moved here, and we were the number 10th largest store in the U.S., the one in Houston. And again, very huge on customer service. So having said that, customer service is one of those things that can and will set you apart from your competition. I've taken that so much from the places I've worked at. Treating your customer with respect, treating them like they're your first customer. I also learned clientele from them. How to, when people ask you for your name, your number, so they contact you, whatever, all that good stuff. I've learned how to build relationships from these places. And I take that with me and now I apply it online because I know I'm behind a screen and my customers can't see me, but they could feel my customer service. I mean, you guys know, right? I email
Absolutely.
them, I'm on time. I ship like a mad woman. Like I ship every day. So if you buy something from me today, there's a good chance it's going out today or probably tomorrow morning. And I pride myself in that. Not everybody could do that, I know, but there's certain things, like I said, I've taken from it. And I noticed that customers really value, genuine, good customer service. And I know I've taken a lot more from my retail jobs, but that is certainly one of the biggest things. I actually talk to my members often about it. I even told them my challenges recently because I've gotten so busy, guys, and my assistant have just recently left me. And it's only me and my husband. I'm finding it challenging to answer all my conversations on time. And oops, because something else is going on, I literally don't answer that person until the next day. And I'll tell you something, 24 hours is not my game. I think within 24 hours is absolutely fine for a lot of people because they have full-time jobs. Not me. You're going to get a response from me within an hour, okay? Because I close sales faster that way. And the fact that I've had things go past that time, I'm generally embarrassed because it's not how I roll. So I'm in a little troubled spot right now with that, but I understand I am. I understand the issue. I understand I'm doing some things that's going to help me change that. Mm-hmm. But customer service and the way we've treated people there and the things I've done for customers that if they end up walking in with a sad face, I make sure they walk out with a happy face. And of course there's some rules and, things like that, but we certainly do what we can. And my business is a little, I don't give away the farm, right? But there's definitely certain things that I do for my customers that I think a lot of sellers would not. I think people are quick to not trust their customers if something got lost in the mail, if something, if they want to return a package. I've heard this often. They want to return a package. They're like, oh, this customer had it for 5 days. How come they didn't tell me sooner? I'm like, are you kidding me? Packages sit in my house all the time. And that's me. Maybe not you guys, but it happens. You can't think your customer is the enemy. They're quite the opposite, because there will be a bad apple or two. But if you run your business that way, you won't get far. And I learned that from the, working and being a manager in these retail spots,
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm a big procrastinator. So I definitely know what you mean. Like if I have a return or something like that, I'm mostly going to wait until the last minute because it's not the highest thing on my priority list.
Yeah. How many days do I have? I'll wait till that -1.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quick to solve the problem that the thing I purchased is solved. But, by the time I'm returning it, chances are I've already gotten another one to solve that problem. And now it's just something that has to go back. It's kind of an operational thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not in a huge hurry because the hurry was, hey, I've got this problem. I need to buy this thing to solve it.
Yeah. And people are sometimes so connected to their product personally that if a customer has any feedback for them, it's just upsetting to read this, but they automatically think, nope, I didn't send it like that. There's no way the quality's bad. There's no way it got ruined on the way to you. There's no way that, let's just say from my product, my cardstock is very thick. If somebody thinks it's thin, the last thing I should be doing, believe it or not, is saying, oh, that person's crazy. I mean, I sell the best and, blah, blah. It's always important to first of all, if you have a customer complaining, I want you to think about it how you would want to handle it. Again, you're not going to have many of these, so just chill out, right? And, take care of that customer, I feel, depending on how your rules and your profit margin and all that stuff. But there's a chance that it got ruined in transit. If you didn't package it right for transit, that's your issue. Let's be honest. That's your issue. And people are so quick to believe that their product is perfect. It's not. Neither is mine, and I'm still working on things to improve, but they have to be able to take feedback and say, you know what, thanks for your feedback. I'm going to, look into this, or I'm definitely going to do this. And then of course, take care of the customer at that moment, but it's a learning experience because your customers are speaking to you. Remember the whole target market thing? They're telling you, somebody's like, let's just say somebody tells you that, for the price I paid, I thought it was going to be thicker cardstock. Let's just say, you had one customer tell you that. What you don't want to do is brush it off and say, that's just one customer, because that's true. It's only one customer, but how many customers have actually not told you that? Mm-hmm. That's why I learned as well. Some people will, not say anything. They shut their mouths and they keep going because, all right, no problem. They got it. And they, it's cute and that's it. They use it and it's done. You have to understand that one customer that told you that, had the guts to do it. Also, that there's probably a few others that think the same thing, possibly.
Yeah. The silent majority there.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that you provide to your customers too, and this would be a customer who also happens to be an Etsy seller, are shop critiques. And you do those through your Handmade Mastermind coaching services that you provide. I was curious to ask you, what are some of the most common things that you find people doing that you kind of help them correct when you're helping them with shop critiques?
The most common things I've seen are SEO. Okay, it's a very popular topic, as you guys can imagine, and it's unfortunate that they don't know that their SEO is bad or not as great as it can be. And while I don't want to obsess over it, sometimes I do, because organic search is really, when somebody just genuinely wants to find something, they're searching for it. And they hopefully run into your product and hopefully purchase it because you converted them. It's different than somebody shoving a product in your face and trying to sell it to you, say door to door. When they generally search for you, it's different, and it's really, really important. That's why I really take SEO very, very seriously. Regardless if you're really bad at it, obviously I'll help you. But also, even if you need to optimize it better, there's no excuse. I think that person probably didn't understand the importance of it. So I take that opportunity to tell them. Another thing is photos. Photos are a very big deal, guys. The 3 things I tell people that are most important for successful business is SEO, great photos, and of course, great product line. Because in the end of the day, if you're not selling things people want them. You could do SEO and photos all day long. Nobody's searching for you. Okay. Nobody's searching for what you're making. Right. So those are the three things. So photos is another big deal. And I tell people, it's often lighting. People have trouble with lighting often. And I will tell you that they buy those, those box, I forget what you call them.
Yeah.
Light boxes.
Yeah.
They're very simple.
Yep.
They're not very expensive. And they still have trouble. And I tell people, don't underestimate a good photo editing program, a decent photo editing program, because, I'm a designer, so I kind of know my way around it, but you don't have to invest a lot of money in these type of things. Photoshop Elements, for example, is, decently priced in my opinion. And of course, there's other free platforms you could use that will help you photo edit. But brightness in a photo, sometimes people there's too much light brought into it. It's insane. Or the tone of it is very either yellow, their whites, or their whites are too blue. So don't underestimate a good photo editing program, but also, don't underestimate going to YouTube to say, you know what, I have trouble with my lighting. I don't know how to use, let's say, I don't know, some free editing program or Photoshop to fix it. Let me literally go on YouTube and say how to, make my whites white on Photoshop, and change up the words to find the video that's really right for you. And you will find success. You just have to put the work in it. So lighting is a big deal for photos. Composition is a big deal. I find it's not interesting angles. It looks like it just got plopped somewhere. It looks really odd. It looks like I took it with my camera phone by accident when I was passing. I've no, and not to make fun of anybody, but I've critiqued thousands of shops, believe it or not, and I've seen a lot. So that's another thing. And also background and props, okay? To make your photos enticing, to make, when Richie sees my stationery, for example, is he saying, wow, like I want that on my desk or wherever you put your stationery or whatever, right? my background and props are pretty much stationary items. So you'll probably find pens around my stationery, paper clips, staplers. It's really in that kind of whole, and it gives you that feeling that this could be in your life. And that's what I want people to do with their backgrounds and props. So those are the major things. And one more thing, I will say this, the third thing I see often is descriptions. They suck at them. A lot of people do. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why right now, because one, there's paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of things. It's like, okay, you paid me to do your shop critique, right? That's cool. And I don't even want to read through that. And you paid me to do it. And I tell them, here's your opportunity. Because I actually don't want to read through, this is what you're going to do. I tell them the first thing should start out with a description. Describe your item, make it enticing, right? Connect with your target customer. And you want to tap into their, the reason why they're buying it, right? The person's needs, okay? And use it in that description. The next thing you want to also be careful about with descriptions is formatting. Remember that big paragraph thing? No. Nobody wants to read that. People are on their mobile. People are in a hurry nowadays. Right? So formatting your description so people could see what the listing includes, the features, what's important to the customer. Okay. So formatting is very, very big deal for that. So that's a couple of tips to help people out, because sometimes they don't know the importance. How am I supposed to know if I want to buy this if I actually don't know the size of it? And believe me, I've seen some things that's like, I need to know the size of this item and I have no idea what it is. And what you don't want to do, and yes, they could convo you, right? They could message you. You don't want to do that. And here's why. I love hearing from my customers, but the less I hear from them, the better. And here's why. Because if they take the moment to reach out to me, I might have lost them, right? You guys know how that is. Of course. It's not something that they need. They don't need any of our stuff, right? They need water, they need milk, they need that. They don't need our stuff. So if you message them, right, and you might have lost them. They might not come back to Etsy because we live on Etsy. They might not. And they might not see that message again. Or they're like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't want to work hard. Like they just skip it, And I know people lose customers that way. They lose them.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. Just like we were talking about where a lot of sellers don't want to reach out to their customers. There's a lot of customers that don't want to reach out to the sellers. And it might be something as simple as they really just don't want to start a conversation with you because they're shy, or they don't think it's their responsibility to ask the question. They'll just go over here without having to actually talk to anybody.
Right. Or go to somebody else that's selling a similar thing that works for them.
Yeah, a big part of it too could just be they have limited time. Maybe they're sitting down to make a decision and they don't want to have to wait to hear back from somebody before they decide what they're going to buy.
unfortunately, we're in a time where people want it now. There might be some leniency in time, but I'll tell you guys, I know that I have won over several customers, and of course, not everybody could be as quick, responding because they don't do this full time, but I went over several of them for responding or making sure that my listings answer all these buyers' questions. I've taken convos from customers, and this is a great tip for people out there. And over time, I'm like, you know what? They keep asking me, for example, how many note cards come in a set, right? So I have to make it evident, because even though I kind of have it in my description, I kind of, I have to make it more evident. How else could I do that? And if you think people shop mostly on mobile, give or take, photos, it's really important because they look at photos, and the title of your thing is one of the first things that they see. Why not put it in your title? I always tell people, especially like in my SEO webinar, that the last part of your title should probably be it's important info that people need to know. Maybe not SEO friendly, but because remember, buyers are still reading this stuff. It's not all about getting to the top of the search. It is, but you also have to have human beings read this and understand what you're selling. So having or sneaking in the 10 note cards, comes with 10 note cards or whatever you want to word it, could be important to help convert more buyers. Because if you keep losing them and them asking you, oh, how many cards come in this set, or whatever they're asking you, stop that. Say to yourself, okay, they keep asking me, where else can I put this? Think outside the box, ask your peers, whatever it is.
Yeah. And if you're good with image editing, you could even maybe overlay it on one of your photos or something like that if they're already scrolling through the photos. Exactly.
And it depends on a lot of things, but I don't usually recommend it for the first photo. It just depends on what you're trying to come across. But absolutely, I think photos is a great way to get across messages. I use it for a color chart and many things. And it's a very important thing. If you know that people keep asking you certain things, whatever it is, it might be important to put it, in an overlay on a photo, a second or third photo.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you can be pretty sure they're actually going to look at as the photos, because even people aren't big fans of reading these days, but they are a big fan of looking at photos.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just kind of sneak some words in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trick me into reading something.
Oh, how'd you do that?
Absolutely.
Very sneakily.
So, and one of the other things I wanted to ask you about too is you were really heavy into Periscope, and I wanted to ask you what your experiences were with that and other forms of social media, and how you found those things working for you.
So, I still use Periscope, but I use it as a platform to get, my members, right? 'Cause I use it for the coaching business only, over to my Facebook group to chat over there. So I've used it. It was really great. I mean, I've actually gained a lot of members that way. They found me through Periscope. I don't exactly know how. I don't know how they, fell upon me into my scope, but I used it because I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed sharing my knowledge. It was simple as that. When I first started, I did it twice a day. Crazy, right? I did it in the morning. I did it in the afternoon when I picked up my kid from school. So I waited in the car and I scoped. And I just loved sharing knowledge. And what I loved mostly was that people got value out of my knowledge. It's like, I'm going to keep doing this. And it became a thing. And then eventually, I think it was holiday season came upon us last year. And I said, guys, I have to go to one time in the morning. And that was so cool, etc. And then what happened? Facebook, of course, they ruled the world. They came over and we're going to do Facebook Live. And I was like, I don't know about that. But what I found out was that I had to really just think about the platform and respect it for what it was. Facebook already has all my members on there. I used to always try to drive my members to Periscope. It's a little annoying, right? But I found that people are already on the Facebook platform. Periscope, the scope lasted for 24 hours. That's a good and bad thing because it made you want to come to my scope before it expired, right? So that's cool. But also then it expires and then all my good content is see you later, gone. And I said, Facebook will solve that problem. I do my Facebook Live. This stays within the group. So let's say you come to my group and I hashtag it FB Live. So you can literally search for that hashtag and find all my Facebook Lives in there. How freaking awesome is that?
Yeah.
You can literally binge watch me. Okay. people do binge watch me. Let's just say on the weekends they're still working and I'm off. They binge watch me. Or, in general, if they watch me in the morning, they're like, I need more of this to work. And I do listen to things in the background when I'm working. They do the same thing with me, but even if you want to catch up on an old topic, right? Hashtag Facebook Live products, right? To find a Facebook Live that talks about product growth and things like that. It's a really awesome tool. And the biggest thing was it keeps my content, evergreen, right? It stays there, which I love. And people that come to the group new, they don't know quite much about me. They get to know about me and the things I talk about. They get to really realize this girl knows what she's talking about. I'm gonna stick around and engage and things like that. I also found that Periscope, the biggest issue, besides what I mentioned, the 24-hour thing, was the trolls on there. It was a lot. I see Richie smiling. He's like, yeah, I know. They think that you're dumb, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. I mean, you name it. I mean, I've gotten all ends of the spectrum. I've got, and it's quite annoying. And I literally got used to blocking without even saying it anymore. When I first started, I was like, what's this person saying? And it was distracting. No, it's very distracting. And then my members were like, wow, you're getting really good at this. You just block without saying anything. I'm like, yep, I just got used to it. I read and then go block, because it's really inappropriate or whatever. That was a huge frustration with me and my members, seeing all those crazy comments. On Facebook Live, that's not going to happen because that person, I know who they are. They're not behind a crazy screen name,
Yeah.
So yeah, I still go there I talk about the topic I'm going to talk about and say, hey, go join me on Facebook Live. And then so they go over my Facebook Live. And the reason why I do that is because Periscope sends notifications and it's quite reliable and consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And my members need to know when I'm coming on. They like to join me live as to ask questions and interact. And the Periscope, for the most part, gives them that notification.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Cool.
That makes sense. That was nice. Yeah, I'm not sure why Periscope has... I guess it's I think anything where you have just kind of anonymous screen names, you run into that type of problem.
Yeah.
Like same with Reddit, right? If you can hide behind that, people say things that they don't want getting back as them actually saying it. And that's just, I don't know. I kind of avoid platforms like that. Yeah, it's the internet. It's so disingenuous though.
Yeah. I don't understand how that's fun, really. I don't know. I don't think I've ever been thought it would be fun to anonymously give someone a hard time. Even when I was in high school and you do stupid things in high school, middle school and stuff, but I don't even think it seemed like fun then, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I guess people see instigators like Howard Stern, for example, right? He's known as being somewhat of an instigator for his show.
Yeah.
But he does it publicly. That's the thing. Yeah. That's what people he stands behind what he does.
Maybe he cut his teeth in an AOL chat room one day.
Personality.
Remember AOL chat rooms? Do you remember those? That's crazy.
Good old AOL.
No, it's funny. I also know my customers when they're older, particularly when they have AOL.
That's funny.
Email. And I'm not calling anybody out because my little brother actually has an AOL.com email address. I'm like, what are you doing?
Does that still work?
It does. I don't know actually how, but
I
remembered I want to send him something. He's like, this is my email address. I'm like, what? No. He actually doesn't have a Facebook either, which is very interesting. I don't get why. He's very into video gaming and things like that, but have a Facebook at least, kid. Yeah. I mean, it's very weird. I wonder if it still says you got mail. I don't know how that thing works anymore.
I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah.
I hope it still matches up perfectly to that movie. The Tom Hanks movie.
Oh, yeah.
You've Got Mail, right?
Sleepless in Seattle too.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'd be disappointed if it didn't say You've Got Mail. All that nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the best parts of AOL.
Yeah.
It really was.
One of the worst parts would be when you couldn't sign in. Do you remember that when you had the dial-up modems and they didn't have enough? They didn't have enough capacity, so you try to dial all the different numbers.
Yeah, that's right. It would switch numbers. And then in our house, we only had one phone line. So if I was on AOL and someone picked up the phone to call someone,
I know where this is going.
Oops,
yeah,
disconnected. And then they're like, of course, they picked up the phone and they heard the horrible modem noises as AOL is trying to communicate, and then they immediately know someone is on AOL, and they're like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah, too late then.
Too late. I'm already off. You already kicked me off. Now make your phone call. Yeah.
Wow. Good those are struggles that don't exist anymore.
It's funny. Really funny.
Yeah.
like, what do you mean the phone was different than the internet? Aren't they the same?
Exactly.
Actually, it's kind of like, what's a phone?
Yeah.
No one uses a phone.
Yeah. Why would you have that? What's this weird jack on the wall for?
You're right. I actually don't have a home phone. And I was talking to Xfinity recently, my service provider, and I was like, they give me a bundle, and if you don't have the bundle, it's more expensive. I'm like, but I don't use my home phone. I said, who uses a home phone? And I really thought that. I'm like, who uses it? And my sister actually has it. I'm like, what do you use a home phone for? And she has a lot of kids that they're old enough to talk, but not quite old enough to have a cell phone. So that I understand, because she has to reach them if she's out, whatever. But in general, home phone, like I still see that on like applications somewhere. If you go to the doctor's office, home phone, cell phone, I'm like, who has a home phone?
Yeah.
It's rare now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I literally have it connected because it's a bundle deal, but there's nothing on my wall. Like I have the number, it's not connected. Just to save a few bucks, to be honest.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? They make you get extra service to save money overall.
Right? How does that work? Weirdos.
Yeah.
No, it is. All those calls, those unsolicited solicitations you get nonstop if you have a home phone. They're probably paying the phone companies. They're like, hey, get this phone. We'll save you money.
We make more money.
I
make more money if you have this phone.
I actually agree with that because my name on the Xfinity bill is a mixture of my name misspelled and my maiden last name. And I know when my name information has gotten sold from Xfinity, and they do it because I see that weird name come on, mailing, or they ask for this weird person's name with my old last name. I'm like, Xfinity must have sent you, didn't they? And it's frustrating. So I'm like, they sold my information, and I didn't look at their privacy policies. I don't know. I just need internet. Yep. Nobody looks at that. So it's just interesting because I know it's from them because based on my name.
It's crazy. Even if you do look at those privacy policies, because they'll send every year, some companies have to send you that stuff so you can opt out. But if you actually look at it, the stuff you can opt out of is only part of it. There's a whole big list of stuff that you can't opt out of. It's crazy. It's like, wait a minute. So what's the point? I can opt out of like these people. These people must be really bad to make your list where I could. Yeah, they're not paying enough.
Right.
Other things you're telling me I can't opt out of.
Yeah.
Right.
It's ridiculous. And all that is much more annoying than asking somebody questions to get to know them better so you can serve them better with your products. Yeah. So put that in perspective.
Really?
That's right.
All relates back.
I think plus it's always more annoying when it's coming from like a big company too. For whatever reason, like if I get a survey from a big company like Honda or, my ISP, for example, I would never answer anything from my ISP. But if I got something from a small shop that I bought something from, that'd be cool. And then it's almost like you're talking to a person and not just some big company that someone probably had to send out a survey that didn't even care to do. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's different for me somehow with like a smaller place.
I agree. It's funny. My husband, a while back when he was looking for a new car, we always go Toyota, and we went to a car dealership and a guy came out to help him. And, he was just like, hey, just sign up your name and your number here, and your address. They have you fill out this like thing to keep in contact with you. Right. We checked out a couple of cars. We didn't even test drive anything. We just wanted to look around, and just kind of get a feel. And we left. And that guy has contacted him for a year straight. We have no. This is hilarious. I wish I could bring my husband in right now. He sent my husband postcards. I wish we still had them. It's hilarious. I wish I could show you. It would be like, hey, this is weird, but hey, you're still thinking of getting a new car? Think of me, and a smiley face. And it was often sent to him. They sent him one on his birthday. He called them a couple of times. It was extreme. And of course they make a really good commission, but I have not really engaged with you that much, Nor have I bought anything from you. And it's quite different on Etsy. You might have engaged with them first and, sent them a proof and they loved it. Thank you so much. Something. Yeah. This guy just came out of nowhere. I'm telling you guys, we still talk about it nowadays, and it was hilarious. The funniest thing we got was the postcard with the smiley face, and he literally drew our family in stick figures with the new Toyota car. Like, guys, I'm not even making this thing up. I wish I could bring my husband right out and tell you. He'll be like, yep, it happened. We just referred to it. We think it was the most hilarious thing. We were annoyed, but we thought it was hilarious, mostly because of how he did it. He
That's
literally drew a
awesome.
car with my family to show us how our life would be with a new Toyota.
He's trying so hard.
I mean,
It was tempting though, right?
it was a new car dealership, so the commission would have been really good. So the guy gave it a try,
Yeah.
So
A for effort.
I guess
And
it was
entertainment.
extreme. Anyway,
that's good stuff. Well, man,
Yeah.
we went through a lot of stuff here. Do you have any other questions you want to sneak in, Richie?
Yes. Yes,
All
I
right.
do.
All right.
One more. All right. So I've seen this pop up a couple times as a quote in different places around the business world, in different kind of variations of it. But all boils down to this: that sales fix everything. Sales fixes everything. How do you feel about that quote? Do you feel like more sales fixes all your problems?
I think you could tell by my face if you could see it. That the second you said it, I was literally like this. I wasn't quite sold on that. And I had to think about why, and I know why. I actually talked about it this morning in my Facebook Live, or was it yesterday? I forget. But it was, I literally said in the Facebook Live, sales are not important. This is. And I think it was today. And what is profits. Sales does not always fix everything. A lot of people, and I have no problem with the people that have lower profit margins, but there's some people out there that are all about the sales and all about this. And it could be frustrating when I see that, because of course I coach people and I look at it, I'm like, wait a minute. You're completely undercharging. Let me explain why. Simple pricing formula you can find out anywhere in the world on the internet. And you realize that you're not charging enough. So while it looks really cool, by the way, to get the sale and the revenue looks really cool, people are have this cloudy vision. When they see revenue, they get excited, and hell, I get excited too, right? But I'm obviously in a different position where I know my profit margins are really fairly good, even after I pay myself. But when people look at revenue, I'm telling you guys, I see it often. They're like selling something and they've made X amount of money for it, really something really small, if anything. And I'm like, I get why you're excited, because that person out in the world found your shop and they found you and they loved your item enough to buy it. That's cool. But in the end of the day, if you're running a business, partly sales are important, but that's not the most important thing, depending on what your goal is. Okay. Because I'm not, me personally, I'm not about quantity. Okay. I'm about quality. It's me particularly. Again, I'm not talking bad about people that actually want to sell a lot so they can make money. I will sell a little bit less than people and still make a good profit margin. I urge sellers to really think about your pricing, not tomorrow, right? Over time, gradually, at least do a pricing formula, figure out what you're making. If you're quite uncomfortable increasing your prices, I understand that everybody goes through that, so I'm not oblivious to that. Then potentially, if you're making no profit, then you better increase tomorrow, or you're just wasting everybody's time, including your own. But if you're making some and you're like, I still want to make more, it's not enough, then increasing it a small amount may help, 10%, 20%, depending on what your price is and what the market says is acceptable. And on Marmalead, you could see the average price point for the things that right. So you could use that tool, but also understand that sometimes if I'm using a better quality whatever in my product, then it costs more. And customers may not know that, but it's your job to let them know that. So whether it be through fantastic photos, better than what you currently have, so that your stuff is freaking awesome, or even better customer service. I tell you, for me, I answer quickly for the most part now. Answer quickly my convos. Things ship out quickly, well packaged, and you name it. So I could charge what I charge. So if you want to up your prices, up it slowly if you feel comfortable, and then do things to change your items. If your item is awesome, then maybe take better photos because it doesn't look that way. But sales are not always king if you're not making a good profit. If you're making good profit, then sales are important. Because for me, and other sales that maybe are making a decent profit margin, they're like, okay, well, what about me? I'm gonna say, you know what, making good profit margin, then sales are really king. And that's what we learned in my my last job, my retail position, that, well, first it's customers and then it's sales. That's how we learned it. Because you know what I'm saying? Because without one or the other, I mean, it just doesn't work. But customers came first, then sales, and then all that other fun stuff.
That's a nice example of the retail experience coming right back out.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I still remember they taught us that, and I'm like, they're like, sales is king, but customers first. And I'm like, I get it. I completely got it because of my past experiences with the other retailers that happen to also value customer service, you know?
Absolutely. That's a great caveat too for the sales, right? It's sales at the right price. Because if you're losing money on the sale, the more of them is only going to hurt your business.
That's not.
You know?
I will tell you, I coached a person. It was a long time ago, and I recently touched base with her. But she has had an incredible business, guys. The last time she did her tax returns, she's made quite an amount. I'm not going to share that much, but quite an amount. And what she came to realize, unfortunately, was, wait a minute. After she did her taxes, you know, expenses went away and all that good stuff. She was like, whoa, that's all I made for all the work she's done. And her work was, her stuff that she does is very labor intensive. Okay. And mine maybe isn't compared to hers or compared to somebody else, but mine has some labor. But she realized, wow, all that hard work. And I was only, in her particularly, was only able to pay herself. That is not profits, right? You pay yourself. It's part of an expense, depending on how you set up your business. You pay yourself, then there should be profits. She literally had no profits left. She was able to pay herself. And listen, just for the record, I'm okay with businesses doing all this stuff. And the sole purpose is to make your family a living, you know, so maybe not intense profits have to happen. It's different for everybody. My goals are bigger. It's fine. But in general, she didn't want that. She's like, I wanted more profits. And she was literally only able to pay herself a very low salary, to be honest, compared to where she lives in the US. And she's like, wow, I worked my butt off. And I'm like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. It's unfortunate. So she had tons of sales, guys. I'm talking about her numbers. If you looked at her Etsy shop, like hundreds of thousands, you know, that's one of those shops that quite intense. But the profits, ridiculous.
Did she end up making adjustments because of that?
So one of the things I actually spoke to her about was, and it's a lot more in depth, right? So one of the things that she had trouble with, because her sales also started to slow down, but I talked to her about SEO, because when she first started, she's in a business that is very high in demand compared to people that are out there doing it. And so it's really great because there's a lot of demand for what she has. And when she first started, there was not many people doing it. And now that other players came in the game, right, she didn't focus on strategies that will help her push up as everybody else is coming in. She started to settle down. And I was like, I told you a long time ago, you know, let's call her Sally. I told you a long time ago, Sally, that you should work on your SEO. And because she was so busy, guys, I understand, she couldn't. She had no time, right? Or so she said. And now she's in a position where her SEO sucks. And it actually matters this time because there's a whole bunch of other competitors. But to her profit margins, I have not talked about it with her regarding that specific issue, because the issue she runs into also is that her competitors run sales and, you know, et cetera. But I told her this one thing. There are some of the competitors in her market that are the well-known competitors who don't run sales often. They have created something ingenious around their brand. They have created something that when they release products, people swarm to them. Okay. And I said, it was created in her type of business, her market. I said, you could create the same thing. Now, could Sally create it with the schedule that she has? And she does go to school full time. Okay. So, you know, so it's a little,
that's tough. Yeah.
It's hard. So I said, and this is how it is, you know, if you go to school full time, have 2 kids, have this and that, I can't make time for you. It's what it is, right?
Yeah.
But she, the stuff that I told her to work on in order to gain that customer loyalty, to gain that fanatic customer base, is a very difficult task with the amount of work she has to do to fill orders and with the lack of time she has, you know? So I haven't actually talked to her recently about if she fixed the problem, because there's ways to obviously run a successful business without offering coupons, you know, all the time, you know, like competitors do. So I have not touched base with her on that part though.
Hopefully Sally's got her head in the right spot. She's
Sally.
making
Now,
good
my
progress.
members that are listening to this right now are probably laughing because I refer to this fake customer I always refer to. Her name is Sally. And they're literally probably now laughing because often when I talk to my members and I give examples,
Yeah.
I can't think of a name. I think of Sally.
It's
Sally's
Sally.
girl. And they're literally probably laughing right now as they're hearing this.
We can attribute all the problems to Sally. Sally's
they
just a
love-
mess.
No, they love Sally. They're like, oh, we listened to Sally again. And one person actually mentioned in my group, they're like, guess what? I actually have a real customer named Sally. This is literally a thread that was posted in my group. And the members that got it were like, LOL, we completely understood it. Because I talk about Sally often.
I like that.
Anyway.
Nice.
Way to go, Sally. Well, good stuff. Dalia, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. We went through a whole bunch of things, and I mean, they're all fantastic.
Yeah.
It was great. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to chat with us. I really enjoyed it. I assume Richie did too.
What do you think, Richie? What's
It was good.
2 thumbs up. All right. Look at that.
I certainly had a good time. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Dalia. And for everyone else, we'll see you guys next time on Etsy Jam.